brother. And for our audience out there, welcome to Dragon Slaying with Todd and Tom. Uh, First of all, for those of you who don't know it, we have a book out called Dragon Slaying about how to achieve your full potential despite trauma and loss and challenges. It's a decent book. I've used it as kind of a primer for most of my patients who are willing to listen. And those who are not willing to listen, I keep recommending it until they are willing to listen. Buy some books, okay. And if you don't want to buy books, buy some silkscreen products from Todd, or drop by the Beach Hut Deli if you happen to be in Northwest Reno. Well, it's a bit ironic, but this weekend there are a number of forces that are compelling us to be aware of how isolated we can be. We on the West Coast are in the midst of a decade significant blizzard that is potentially closing off the arteries between Reno and the rest of the world. We're inundated by enormous snowdrifts, and people in Oregon and all over the West are being hit by this. So many of us are experiencing relative isolation. Added to that is a resurgence of various kind of viruses, including the flu, COVID, that's causing us to be isolated. Plus, we have all the political forces operating on us that seem to be relishing the opportunity to divide us. And I would remind people that the news media seems for the most part to be echo chambers. That is, we gravitate toward those media that reinforce our own belief systems, and we avoid those that don't. Added to this is the reemergence of generative AI. And I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to look at what some of the things that Chat GPT and other things can do, but it's rather remarkable. They can cultivate images that look absolutely real, and it is very easy to be fooled by this, and one must be aware that there's a possibility that people can use this in a way to further polarize us. So it's important to kind of get connected with your community so that we get various frames of references. And I think also, it's helpful to understand that younger generations have been so dependent on electronic media that they may lose their attachment to the earth. There are some basic things that older generations will tell you about, how we spend our youth. Many of us in my generation, if we were healthy, spent our youth in school, but usually if we had any discretionary time, it was usually playing sports with friends, whatever that may be. As time evolved, more and more of that discretionary time was being consumed by phones, by media, by video games, and so on, until we get further and further detached from what reality is. And I would talk about several things that we need to do to kind of reattach. One of the things I think that is important is to remember who you are, what your sources are. That is, how did you become who you are? Look at your family heritage, look at your cultural heritage, look at your aspirational goals, and as we've talked about in the book, look at your own organizing myth. What is it you wish to achieve? What's your purpose? And a lot of that purpose, I think, is related to how you connect with people, which gets to point two. Point one being purpose. Point two is make connections with people. Think about someone that you really care about that you haven't spoken to in a while. At times where we have potential isolation like this, it would not hurt at all to pick up a phone and find out how that cousin or distant relative is doing or old friend is doing. Third, physical activity. Keep your body in rhythm as much as possible. If you are ill, use some caution in how you do this, but move, dance, do something that is rhythmic. Get back to getting in touch with your body. Fourth, listen to music. Yeah,
There it is. Video games and music.
yep. Music keeps you going and connects you with people of your generation. Speaking of which, Todd, I just had an opportunity to see on PBS the resurgence of Brit Floyd, the Pink Floyd retrospective, 50 days after Dark Side of the Moon was released.
Wow, how was that?
50 years, I'm sorry. Right.
Wow, 50 years.
Get the, yes, 50 years, right. Need to check it out. It's a rather amazing performance. Okay.
I will for sure. It was like, remember I told you Stevie Wonder was the first record that my dad ever showed me. Well, Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd was one of those first five records
Uh-huh.
that I was exposed to. So I've been a Pink Floyd fan from the get-go.
Well, they're quite a group. And now we see the transgenerational effect because Brit Floyd has become their primary tribute band to the original Pink Floyd. Yeah, it is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Music. And one of the things I was remarking is for those of you who've got the opportunity, as spring comes upon us, think about planting a vegetable garden. Now, that has several elements that are of interest. One is you learn that rabbits are not always your best friend.
No, they are not. If you have to have a little wolf in your backyard, and that will take care of your rabbit population.
Right. So you get back to basics and make sure that you protect yourself from those cute little bunnies.
Man, they are a menace to a vegetable garden.
Absolutely. Or deer. Be aware that,
You know what works really good for rabbits, and at least up in my little suburban neighborhood,
uh-huh.
is we get one of those fake owls on a post, and it kind of bobbles in the wind and its head moves around and stuff. It scares bunnies. It works really well.
It's actually pretty good for, yeah, it's pretty good for robins too.
It definitely scares birds.
I have actually an owl right by my front door, and it does seem to protect my fruit trees. So that seems to help.
We have an interesting window in Reno for a vegetable garden, though. You have to wait until the snow melts off the top of pea vines,
Exactly.
and then you plant.
Yeah, and unfortunately, if we have a premature spring, what happens is we lose the blooms on our fruit trees and we lose our fruit harvest. But let's hope we have late blooming fruit trees and we'll get a harvest.
That's excellent advice. I'm going to do a garden this year. It's been a couple years. It's a good idea.
Well, I've my lady and I have done that, and we've been fairly successful growing tomatoes and eggplants. And it turns out that if you survey the world, tomatoes and eggplants are kind of a mainstay of many great dishes. In fact, our colleague Norman, I was just talking to him about his favorite Pakistani dish, which sounds like you might develop an eggplant sandwich. It could be something special for Big Hut Deli.
Yeah, beach a deep fried eggplant patty built with marinara sauce, mozzarella, and that would be good. Just like an eggplant parmesan, Sammy.
I love it. I love it. That should be your next big one.
Yeah, we're more focused on getting the sandwiches out that exist already. We haven't been able to get bread for 2 days, so that's been pretty interesting.
Well, do what the Israelis do. Matzah.
Right? No, we just went to Raley's and had them make us some French rolls.
Oh, you had it contracted?
Yeah, Raley's took care of us.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
They have a really good bakery at Raley's. They really do.
So you can't use naan or tortillas or something such as that as that wouldn't sell. Okay.
I'm sure it would work. I mean, we do have lettuce wraps and gluten-free tortillas and flatbread and stuff like that. So we have those options, but 99% of our sandwiches go on a French roll.
I believe the smart money is on you rather than on the big fast food chains like McDonald's. I don't know if McDonald's would have the capacity to adapt as rapidly as you do.
No, and I mean, I know technically we're a franchise, but there's only 50 something locations, so we still operate like a family.
Okay, I think that's very good.
And Scott and I operate our business. Obviously, we are family, so I've been so frustrated with my shoulder injury and not being able to help as much as normal. But we're getting better, slowly but surely.
And your shoulder, you said today, is coming back well.
Yeah, I mean it's slow. The bone density isn't what they wished it was, and so we're giving it extra time and going really slow with the physical therapy and stuff.
Okay. But you are getting better.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm getting better. I went and did the radio show this week, so I went to the studio and with Scott, and I did most of it remotely from this computer in my bedroom. But then I went down to the studio to produce the show for about an hour, and I told you I just felt really clunky in there because of my splint. But at the same time, it felt good to get back in there and be creative, like you were saying earlier. Music, music, music.
And I think most of all, as we get these horrible tensions that seem to separate us, try to remember what our organizing myth as a culture is. You know, we have many common qualities. For the most part, we have parents, we have children, or we have surrogate children. We want to see the best for the next generation. We want to take care of the planet. We want this garden, if you will, this Eden equivalent that we've emerged in to be as habitable as possible. And one of the great things that astronomy teaches us, and is really rather humbling, is to realize how incredibly unique the Earth is. That little blue marble, and look at what we have been able to achieve here and how we need to cherish it and take care of it.
Right? It's so corny to say it, but man, every day you wake up is such a freaking blessing. Like, wow.
Right. So, you know, and we need to be very aware of, you know, those forces in the world that are so batshit crazy that they want to nuke each other. Uh,
It's such a weird way to spend 100 years to me to just be hateful, you know?
I think we need to shift the dialogue. And
Right.
as our friend Norman and I were discussing today, that you know, much of the extreme in the world teaches us, as from where we're perspective, to hate each other, and we have to do all we can to remember that ultimately we're brothers and sisters, and we need to bring that awareness together and realize that the common human qualities and empathize with those human qualities as much as possible.
It's true. I mean, to go back to what you were saying about media and video games detaching us, I have kind of a counterpoint to that. As me personally, I am who I am today because of things like video games and movies and stuff like that that really took a kid that didn't feel like he belonged and made me feel like I did. And this is pre online video games and first person shooter graphics. I'm talking about fantasy worlds, pixelated
Sure.
adventures, you know what I mean? But it really did kind of shape me into the confident creative person that I am today. So I don't think it's all because I was definitely the little kid who did not want to go out and play. I did not want to go swim. I didn't want to play little league. I wanted to play Nintendo. And I don't think I turned out too bad. You know, I think I got a pretty well-rounded upbringing thanks to things like movies and video games. They made me feel like I did belong and I was cool and I did know stuff.
But you had another anchor, and you had family.
Yes, I had my brother is who I had, my best friend.
Well, you had your brother, yeah, and you had your parents.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, as far as like my roll dog, my numero uno, that was Scott my whole life, right?
So you guys are almost like twins in a sense. You know,
I yeah, we are.
you've got that special conscience. You're very fortunate because that's a kind of a unique experience.
I must have been bored for 3 years, just like, where is this guy to come and hang out with me? What's going on?
Oh, so
Because I'm the older brother.
I see. Okay, and you were delighted when he came in.
Oh man, it was perfect. I was like, oh, a best friend built in. That's perfect.
So do you have shots of you two when you were kids?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, you have something very special then, because you know what it's like.
And to have him as a roommate and a business partner and a creative partner and it's just
But he's also, as I've watched you guys over the years, I mean,
beyond cool. the way that we're, living.
You are a survival duo, which is really essential in this world. Because if any one of us goes down, the other guy becomes an advocate, a protector.
So when we both had surgeries within 2 weeks, that was a bad idea because we had no one to cover the deli except for our employees, and then one of our employees decided not to come to work, and it completely tailspun the weekend. It absolutely positively tailspun everything because one of us couldn't step up and be the guy. We were both out of commission. So note to self, don't do that again.
But I wonder how many people like me came forward and said, well, hell, at one point in my life, I worked as a food server. I could learn how to make sandwiches for you if you needed help.
Besides Scott's wife, you are the only one. I know that sounds just terrible and sad, but you and Scott's wife were the only ones who were like, we can help. And I went down there and worked 2 days with one arm and just made it happen with my splint on and ran the cash register and, just tried to help as much as I could because we were just swamped, which is the best problem to have in the restaurant industry, right? Line out the door, 30-minute tickets, people saying, best sandwich I've ever had in my life. That was the vibe, but still internally we were struggling.
Well, I'm a bit suspicious that my reputation as a chef preceded me, and that's the reason you declined my offer. I was really hurt by that.
If we're being serious, it would take months for me to teach you how to do that stuff. So
No, I get it. I get it.
it's not rocket science, but it's repetition.
I could learn faster. But I'm a fairly decent greeter, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what I do amazing. I'm the guy who's like, "How was your day? How you doing?" So they put me on the cash register. I get the most tips. I get to keep the customers the most calm. Hey, it's going to be about 25 minutes, and they're like, "What do you mean for a sandwich?" And I said, "Well, best sandwich in town, and all the people that you see around you are also waiting. So are you in or out? Because there's people behind you. Let's go."
We're, we're waiting to harvest the tomatoes as you speak.
Right, exactly. Just have a beer, play Donkey Kong. Come on.
But what that really speaks to is you guys have a sense of purpose. And you call it a business, but your business is your game. And because you play the game that well, you get some financial rewards that keep you in the business.
Right? And another high five to video games. There's no way I would be able to multitask the deli if it wasn't for my experience with playing video games.
Tell me about that.
So there are certain video games that have a lot of planning and progression, and you got to do this, this, and this before you can do this type of gameplay loop. Like there's a game that comes to mind called Minecraft. I don't know if you've ever heard of Minecraft,
My daughter plays it.
but right. If that's what people always say to me, oh, my grandson plays it. I'm like, well, I also play it, but it's got a progression to it to where you have to complete tasks in order to make progress. And the name of the game is to make yourself a base and a home and start to make progress. Well, with the deli, you're constantly juggling. Oh, do we have enough bread? Like you said, tomatoes. Where's the tomatoes? Oh, we're out of tomatoes. Oh shit, the ranch is about to run out. We need to make new fresh ranch. And the bacon is, done. Go open the microwave, get the bacon out. And so there's a lot of juggling in that realm that Scott and I are good at because of our experience with video games. That sounds so dorky when I say it out loud.
No, but if you think about it, you've got multiple ingredients you have to keep in place. You also have a shelf life on the ingredients. You got to make sure you pay the utility bills because so that your refrigerator runs.
Right. I get anxiety when I go to the grocery store because I'm like, how do they do it? How do they keep all this stuff in stock? What are they doing? But yeah, it's a little. I like to call the deli restaurant light because there's no fryer. There's no, you know what I mean? It's a very streamlined version of having a restaurant.
So, have you considered, or I imagine you have, uh, you guys don't have a backup generator, do you?
I You're just jinx us by saying that. And now the power went out
So,
both nights, this last couple nights down there, but then came back immediately.
I see. Well, it becomes a question of how much material you have in your freezers, in your refrigerators.
$6,000 worth.
So that's about half the cost of a backup generator.
Right. So you lose power for 6 hours, and you lose 5 or 6 grand worth of stuff for sure.
Or
But I don't know what a Jenny would do. I guess we would. I don't know where I would put it. It would just be prepper, like crazy prepper type stuff to me. But it makes so much sense. Also, my parents live in Northern California where they turned the power off because of the wildfires, and they had to have a $10,000 system put in with generators built into the back of their house, so that they just have to go back there and flip a switch. The generators turn on, the power in the house comes on because 78-year-old people need to have freaking power. You know what I mean?
well, Seth, who's about your age, has had a generator installed in his house because he gets also all those eastern storms that periodically shut things down.
You live in a neighborhood with above ground power lines or below ground?
Boy, that's a great question. I know that they were putting them below ground. I believe we're below ground now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. My neighborhood was built like that, but which makes a lot more sense for the windy Reno, right?
Pretty sure that having endured as much as I've endured with minimal power outages, but multiple telephone outages, landline goes down regularly, internet goes down regularly, uh, and even now, getting frustrated with cable TV and, of course, transitioning on a day like today with satellite TV, I'm relatively screwed because I've got to go out and knock.
You can hang out with me. This works.
Yeah,
Fiber internet finally at my house, and so we've, knock on wood, have been very steady with our uptime. It's been amazing since we got the fiber.
fiber internet. Who sells that?
It's a fifth the cost of my DSL, so I was paying about $380 a month for my Spectrum, and then my AT&T fiber is 80 a month, and it's 5 times as fast.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the upstream is really, really fast. So when I do my video game streaming and everything that I do here, it's really good. The upload is good. The download's tremendous too, but the upload is really good.
I had some challenges with that because when I had,
So it's good to.
and I don't want to risk being sued, but when I had one of those services, I could never get service on the service. So,
Right.
among others, yeah.
Yeah, Spectrum's tough. Comcast is tough in town. There's a few in town that are really, really terrible depending on where you are geographically. Because my neighborhood is like mid 90s, so there was no such thing as fiber back then, right? So to get fiber to my house, they had to trench the entire neighborhood, and that took years.
Right. But now you've got it. Now you're home free. Okay.
Yes, I got it. Yes, sir.
All right.
They don't offer it at the deli, which I think is weird because they want the landlord to pay to tie into the fiber line that goes up the street. So I have fiber in my residential house, but my commercial place that's a mile from here does not have fiber. So I don't know.
Something to negotiate with your next lease.
Did you see my fancy new microphone that I'm wearing? It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. That is cool.
It's wireless. Yeah. Yeah, it just goes on with a magnet.
Well,
I mean, I when we listen to the recording, it's not as good as the studio, but we'll be getting back in the studio here in the next couple weeks.
I do hope so. Good. So, I guess in closing, I would say remember, we are probably all human. We have many common qualities. Be very suspicious of how easily one can be manipulated by generative AI.
Right. We didn't even talk about that. The robocalls are terrifying now.
Oh, yeah. Right. But they're such. So, I mean, one of the things that I think is fortunate about it is that these people have no clue about how most of us really work. And so far, the level of sophistication has not yet reached the point where we're that easily manipulated by the robocalls.
Did you see Sora, the videos of the generative AI video? Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's what just inspired this. In fact, Norman was the person that turned me on to it, and absolutely amazing. Yeah,
It's crazy. And I called within 10 minutes of seeing that video, I called my friend who's a videographer and I said, well, stock footage is dead. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, if I can just plug into a piece of software, show me Ensenada, Mexico, drone flyover at sunset with canoes on the beach, and then I get that video instantly, then why is there going to be a guy that packs up and goes to Mexico with his drone, takes the footage? That guy's job is obsolete. And the crazy thing about AI is, it's funny. We were just talking about. I said, "Oh, my dad talks about AI, but he never uses it." And you said, "Well, Todd, if he's using closed captions on television, if he's Googling things, if he's doing basically anything with technology, with his iPhone, Facebook, Instagram, all AI powered these days, or at least in some form or fashion, right? There's AI is involved."
Well, I think what people don't understand is that we have been dealing with the antecedents of generative AI for years. I mean, everything, when we use a search engine, it's all algorithmic, uh, and that already is a program. We ought to be schooled in that by now.
Have you ever heard of Moore's law?
Yeah, Gordon Moore, Intel,
Yes, every 6 months,
right?
processing power doubles.
And now, and now we're kind of on that exponential explosion.
Right, we're at the top of the bell, you know, and it's scary too, because if that's correct, if processing power is going up, AI is getting more complex, which means that the processing power is there for the AI to learn faster, learn more, learn better, for lack of a better word. I hate to say it like that, but I feel like, because when you mention AI to me in 2024, I think ChatGPT, OpenAI, Sora. I don't think the coupon printer at Safeway. But to a degree, that thing is saying, "Hey, Todd just bought soup. Here's a coupon for soup." That's machine learning. That's the brink of what we're talking about. So if processing power keeps climbing, holy smokes, we are in for it.
Well, in terms of politics, I'm recalling when I was but a student at the University of Michigan. I think one year somebody ran a dog to be president of the student body. I, I don't know.
And they won, right? The dog won.
I, I may have voted for the dog.
Man, something back to AI. Something I think is interesting is it struggles with hands, human hands. And and as someone who went through art school, the hardest thing to draw is a hand. And I was like, wow, is AI struggling with hands because they're hard, and they're hard to generate, and they're hard to draw, and they're hard to. I just thought that was so interesting. My brother is the one who came up with that. Mr. Dyslexic Scott comes up with the coolest concepts sometimes. He's just like, you know what? Because I was showing him the Sora video with the old lady that's blowing out the candles, and all the people in the background are clapping, and their hands are all crazy. And he's like, yeah, hands are hard to draw, hard to paint. And I was like, man, hard to render with AI apparently.
Well, speaking to that level of sophistication, there's a neurological, neuroanatomical concept called a homunculus, which is the brain's representation of our body parts. And there's an extraordinary amount of the brain that is devoted to things such as our hands, our tongue, perhaps even our big toe for balance. And so is those are the things that are most difficult to fake because they require the most sophistication. And if you think about how humans evolved, it was that prehensile hand that really was essential for us to become the tool making mammal.
Right. And the fire making, and like the deliberate, like you said, tools. Hey, I have this thing I want to do. It's back to Minecraft. Hey, I want to do a thing, but first I got to make this other thing so that I can do that thing. It's a game like Minecraft is so open ended that it's almost a metaphor for real life. I think that was the point of it, though. We need to get you playing some games. You're just not that guy?
No, no, I am. I could be that guy. Maybe when we get together, you can introduce me to stuff like that. That'd be all right.
Yeah. I'll show you my Minecraft server that I've had for 11 years with my friends. It's unbelievable. It's a city.
Yeah, I'm willing to stretch my brain as long as it doesn't give me a headache.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. That was scary for a sec.
No, I'm doing okay. I think right now it's a challenge of isolating until I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to contaminate the rest of the world with my virus.
Right. See, video games would be pretty nice for you right now.
A book is not bad. You remember what those are? You remember a book, you turn the pages and stuff like that.
I like to read books about video games.
Well, brother, it has been a delight. You seem to be getting better. I'm recovering. I look forward to next week. Maybe we'll be in the studio. For those of you out there, be well. Take a look at the book if you haven't already taken a look at it. And we look forward to future podcasts.
Right, and everybody follow the socials. They need to find you on Instagram, find you on YouTube, find you on all those places. So look for Dr. Tom Bittker, Bittker, on all the socials. You'll find him. Like the posts and give us some feedback.
Thank you so much. Buy a sandwich. Buy a sandwich from Beat Hut.
Yeah, bye.
Well, while you guys are staffed up.
Right. Until we have to split our staff in two here soon, right? That's going to be crazy.
Well, you will have figured it out, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. All right, everybody. Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Be well.